Hi, I'm Michael Sansolo, and welcome back for another episode focusing on our favorite topic, food. The fish department has become a lot larger and a lot more choices to make there in recent years. We're going to have an expert with us today who's going to help us understand these choices so we buy fish better than ever. And we're going to take a look at some of the foods that immigrants have brought to the United States over time, bringing new flavors, new varieties, and new tastes into our diet. And a lot of these foods we all eat now. We'll be right back with all of this in a moment.
Who makes store brands? We hired a famous detective to find out. He snooped here, and he snooped there. And what he found was, in many cases, the same company that made the national brand made the store brands too. Wow! Then he found that many store brands are made by manufacturers who specialize in store brands, experts in working with retailers to give you great products at great savings. Wow! But most important, he found that store brands have to meet the same government standards as the national brands. What's the difference between store brands and national brands? Usually, only the price. Store brands. Be your own detective.
For a long time now, doctors have been telling us to eat more fish for countless health benefits. But let's be honest, for a lot of us, we don't know what we're doing when we go to the fish department. There are all these new choices to make. There are different cuts, there are different kinds of fish, and quite frankly, it gets a little intimidating for us to go in and make the selection that'll work as a good dinner or any kind of center of the plate for us. Well, luckily, to help us understand some of these issues in the fish department, we've got an expert with us today. Steve Hedlund, you're with the Global Aquaculture Alliance, and you guys study all the things that are happening out in the ocean and what's happening with our seafood. There are so many varieties of fish out there today. Are there some new ones that we're going to be seeing that as American consumers we're going to want to eat, want in our diets? Do you see some hot products coming along?
I do. I think because of the advent of aquaculture, species that weren't as available as they used to be are more available. I also think with the food movement in cities where restaurants are popular, that consumers are becoming more comfortable with these newer, more obscure species because they're eating it at a restaurant and then they're bringing it home to try it at home.
What would be one of those species? What might I see?
For example, monkfish would be one. It's very popular in the North Atlantic. It's a small fishery, relatively small fishery, but it's popular in fine dining. And then a consumer may see it at an independent fish market, and they may buy it and bring it home and try it themselves.
What are the other kind of varieties we'll be seeing come along?
Oysters, I think, is a perfect example. Even though it's familiar to most Americans, it's really taking off, the popularity of oysters at raw bars in cities across the country. And then along with that is the farming of the oysters and the province associated with the oysters. People love a story with their food, and oysters is perhaps the best at that because an oyster really takes on the quality of the water in which it's raised. So there's such a great story there to tell.
So it'll taste different depending on where I'm getting it from.
Exactly, exactly. It could be one inlet and another inlet that's 10 miles apart, but they could taste slightly different.
Wow, so when I'm in my supermarket, if I'm looking at oysters, I want to know something about where it's from. Let me stay on this topic of where an item is from because I have these two cuts of salmon. Now, one is farm-raised in Canada, one is farm-raised in Scotland. Any difference between farm-raised in one country and farm-raised in another?
There are differences, but usually there aren't, especially if there's a third-party certification program that is auditing the processing plants, farms, and hatcheries and feed mills against third-party standards.
But I notice there are some differences. For instance, if my store has farm-raised or wild, first of all, the price of wild is significantly higher. What is the difference? Is one better for me? Does one taste better? Is it healthier? Should I buy one or the other? Right.
They're both good, both wild and farmed. I think the major difference is the production, the method of production is different. One is raised in a farm and one is caught in the wild. Typically, it's best to always ask your retailer or your restaurateur where the product came from. Usually any issues occurred not so much with the production of method of production, but rather with the handling of that product. There isn't much difference between wild and farm from a nutritional standpoint. The feed that farm fish eat has the nutrients in it, the same to replicate what is found in the wild. And it just tends to be that farmed seafood is generally more inexpensive and more available than wild seafood, because these wild fishery productions are happening at spots across the year and aren't happening year-round, whereas farm seafood is happening year-round.
All right, so that's why I can buy my salmon year-round, because of this is a real advance. I am a basic American. I have the basic American diet. Why is salmon so popular? And I notice there are certain cuts that are really, really popular, and others you don't hear that much about. Why has salmon become so popular?
People are being more health conscious, and they're looking for something that's really good for them, really good for their heart, like salmon, because there are so many omega-3 fatty acids in it. It's also a good center of the plate protein. It stands out. It's a thick fillet, and Americans typically like that. And it's available too, because of the advent of aquaculture and salmon being available year-round. It's everywhere. It's in every supermarket. It's in every restaurant. It's just more available. So some of it is market pressure, what consumers are looking for, and some of it's just the industry, what they're able to produce, and yeah, basically that's it. Yeah.
But as you say, it's a good center of the plate dish.
It
now,
is.
next to it, we have a plate of tilapia. It's everywhere now. How did it become so popular? It's obviously not a new fish. It's something that was there. What causes an item like this to become something that people are eating so much of?
Right, again, it's the advent of aquaculture. About 20, 25 years ago, producers started producing tilapia, and it appeals to Americans so much because it's such a mild fish. It's very versatile. It's easy to cook, and Americans in particular like that. They like something like a cod or a haddock, something that's a white fish that's relatively easy to cook.
There's a lot of ways you can take a good piece of fish and make it fit different cuisines, because they really do pick up flavors well.
Right, right. Well, that's what's so great about seafood. There are so many different types of species, and there are so many different types of product forms. It really appeals to the home chef who's looking to try something different. And I think the average American consumer doesn't realize how easy it is to prepare and how quickly it is to prepare. I think that sometimes Americans get scared away because they're going to pay $10 or $12 for a piece of fish, and then they're afraid that they're going to ruin it when they take it home. But all it takes is asking your retailer, asking your chef, Googling it, trying to find a recipe, and just following it. And if you ruin one piece of fish, there's always the next piece of fish.
Well, we have to experiment to try new foods. Steve, I want to thank you, because this is a category that I do think a lot of consumers, there's a lot of choice they don't understand, and you've shown some great light on the products here. So the next time you're in your supermarket, hopefully you'll have that ability to go to the fish department and understand some of these choices. As Steve has told us, you're going to get a very good product with farm-raised. There are some environmental benefits from the sustainability, and it's going to have a lot of those health aspects you're looking for. And it's one of the reasons why you continue to hear dietitians and doctors talk about the importance of getting more fish into our diet. It can be done easily, it can be done with really great taste, and it's just something for you to get out there and try. Whether you're eating out or eating home, give fish a shot. We'll be right back with more.
Squirrels know how to save. They have to. But people, they're a different story. Some try coupons or check apps for the lowest price. Some wait for the word S-A-L-E. Many people, however, know that the lowest prices without coupons or special sales come when they regularly buy store brands. Food, beverages, household, health and beauty. Your supermarket, drug chain or mass merchandiser has store brands with comparable ingredients, taste and performance to more expensive national brands. A family of 4 can save $1,500 a year, and you can squirrel that away for other things you need to buy. Store brands, the real way to save.
America is often described as a melting pot, and that depiction is never truer than when it comes to an actual melting pot, filled with the food we eat. From the country's founding, our food has been greatly influenced by the people who made the journey to live here. And if you think about it, this goes on today. We try a new food, maybe we're at a restaurant, and there's a new dish we've never heard of, and we give it a shot and we like it. Well, if we want to make it at home, what we have to do at first, in many cases, is go to a specialty store. It might be a store geared to the people from the region where they make that food. And over time, the food, like we as people, become part of the American culture and falls into the mainstream American supermarket. I want to show you today some of the items that in recent years are making their way more and more onto the American table. Because over time, I mean, think about it. The taco is a Mexican food, but now we all eat it. It's become very Americanized. Here are some other foods making that journey. We'll start in the Middle East, and this is hummus. Hummus is not strange to any of us at this point. It is a wonderful dish served at parties. Probably everyone has this in their fridge, and it's a great little thing for hors d'oeuvres. Now, if we were in the Middle East, you would always serve hummus with pita bread, and that's how you dip it and eat it. We've sort of Americanized it. In an American party, we might have vegetables like carrots or peppers on the side, and we dip those. Or something like pretzel chips. Together, the taste is fabulous, and we don't think that we're combining different ethnicities, but we are. Think of some of the sauces that are becoming very popular right now. Here's sriracha sauce. Sriracha comes to us from Thailand. It has a very vivid taste. If you've ever tried it, it can be a little spicy for some folks, but you can use it with any kind of protein. You can use it in all kinds of cooking, and it really dresses up your flavors. From Japan, we get teriyaki, and folks have discovered that you don't only have to use it for Japanese cooking. You can use it in all kinds of meal preparation to bring new flavors and new tastes into old dishes. And as we think about where we are today, the new food continues to come. We see it foods from Indonesia, the Philippines, from all over Latin America. And one that's growing tremendously in popularity is Korean food. This is a dish called Korean beef. And right now, if you want to try it in most places, I know for me, we go to a Korean restaurant, and there are numerous different kinds where I can get this sort of dish. If I want to make it on my own, I might have to go to a Korean ethnic supermarket, but guaranteed over time, if it becomes popular enough, it will be in a mainstream American store. So when we think about the foods that make up the American diet, let's remember they come to us from a lot of places. It could be spices or sauces from another part of the world. It could be different ways of cooking, whether it's a wok or other instruments we use. It could be naan bread from India. And together, all of these international foods help make up the modern American diet, which is more global than ever, and in many ways, more interesting than ever. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Shopping with Michael. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.